Hello, this is Kevin Steen, and you're watching Xtreme Virtual Pro Wrestling. Like, comment, and subscribe because it's about to get extreme. I don't know, that's what they're telling me. They're telling me it's about to get extreme. I don't know if it's about to get extreme. They told me it was about to get extreme. Now I'm telling you. Why don't you like, comment, and subscribe, and then we'll see if it gets extreme. You know what I mean? It's a start. Start with that, and then let's see if it gets extreme. But the extreme is in the name of the, the Fed or whatever you want to call it. So it's bound to get extreme at some point if that's in their name. So let's go with that.
Extreme. What's good, everyone? Welcome to the Best Effin' Podcast, episode 2. Yeah, guys. I finally thought of a name, and yeah, this is the Best Effin' Podcast. XVPW presents the Best Effin' Podcast, and yeah, it's official. Episode 1 was basically like the pre-show of what I did. I wanted to make it extreme, so I had the famous Bill Alfonso on episode 1. Make sure to check that out. And now I got the professional wrestling out of the way, and here I have the Efed Conway, and I'm excited to have him on. I was on his episode, and now he's on my episode, and I got the famous Jamco. Welcome, Jamco.
What's going on, baby? How's it doing? I am a guest. I'm finally a guest. I'm not the interviewer. I'm the interviewee. So I'm excited about this. Finally, someone's going to ask me the hot questions, not me ramble on about who's the most overrated CAW ever.
What's crazy is and you mentioned it in yours, is nobody does not know what you look like, and now here you are.
Yeah, now people are going to start cutting out my heads and putting them on people's weird bodies. And
you do have the nice solid white background, so you kind of did it to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to cut it out anyway and be like, I'm going to put him on this guy. I got your back, Jamco, by putting you on a dog or something like that. The weirdos out there, but go nuts. I don't really care.
So normally I am very prepared and all that stuff for doing podcasts. And I only have like a few questions. I wasn't fully prepared because I actually wanted to just shoot with you and just talk about whatever.
You haven't done your research? You haven't done your research?
Correct. I have not done it. I've done enough research. I peeped your YouTube and all that stuff. So we're going to talk about your YouTube stuff for a while. But for now, I like kicking it raw, I like... So for the first few minutes, probably like the first half of this, I just want to talk about wrestling, man. And seeing as it's my podcast and it's the Best Effin' Podcast, and seeing as we're just talking, like we're in the wrestling community as it is, we're in the video game portion of it. I just want to talk about wrestling and see where it's gone, So Jamco, my man. Yes. Is Jamco your real name, first of all?
No, it's not my. Who the hell would be called? If anybody is called that, please tell me. I might change my name by default, but no.
You don't have to you don't have to give your full government out there.
Oh no,
what is your first name or
God knows
nickname?
God knows they'll find me. But my nickname's just Jam. That's what people call me in real life. Yeah. So that's where the Jam on the. I can't remember how I came up with the name, to be honest with you. I was really, really young and just thought put Jam with jamming, jam, sir, and then just put Jamco together and thought that sticks. But no, Jamco is not my real name.
Okay.
And actually, I wonder if Jamco would be a cooler name in real life than my actual name.
I actually dig the Jamco. I like Jamco.
Yeah. It wouldn't be like the Jamco, like on my water bill. It says the Jamco, you owe us some money. But when I actually probably maybe become a real professional wrestler, whenever that may be, that will be my my ring name, the Jam. By the way, I'm never going to become a professional wrestler. That's not happening whatsoever. I'll stick to the online stuff.
I could actually see you'd be a good commentator. Try that out.
Yeah, I've had that a few
Backstage
times.
interviewer and indie feds and all that. I could see that. I could see that. Get your name out there. You know.
Well, you know where I'm originally from in England is actually in the east of England. So our nearest promotion is actually the Knight family, of course. Soraya Knight Page, all those kind of things. My friend is like obsessed with Jamie's his name. He's obsessed with the what's it called again? WAW, World Association of Wrestling, and he's really obsessed with the guys that go down there. And my old friend from high school is actually their social media manager. So the UK Hooligans, who are Roy and Zach Bevis, who are Page's brothers. Oh. They're kind of like your main event, and then Rowdy Rookie Night, which is her dad, and Sweet Soraya, who is Julie Bevis, Julia Bevis, I think it is, wrestles and does her own women's promotion, which is called, is it Shimmer? No, it's not Shimmer, is it?
Shimmer? Well,
no, it's not Shimmer. That's something else. What's the damn thing called? I'll remember it later. I should know that. But they started up a TV deal in the east of England, and I went to a few of them. Of course, they got some American imports, so they basically had it where Ken Anderson was on the card pretty frequently, as well as Luke Hawks, and they'd have Scott Hall as like the commissioner role, and he'd come in our small little town in Norwich, and I weren't keen on the actual shows because I never really like knew much about it, but I got to admit I enjoyed it, and they would have the odd person come in. I think X-Pac came in there one time. Anderson was there quite a freak. I did go to the one where they did bring in Rey Mysterio, and I was like, I've got to go to that one, man. It's flipping Rey Mysterio in my back.
They got a huge pop that day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He did his thing, and of course, to see Rey Mysterio like literally feet away from you, that's pretty awesome. And I kind of try and get in the backstage information from my friend from high school who does the social media stuff, and great bunch of guys down there. They're doing a great job, and they're trying to get their name out for their own stuff in that area. Trying to without. A lot of guys look some real good things, and again, the stuff I'm talking about is pre WWE NXT UK.
Yeah,
that kind of changed things with different talent and going to different places. They tended to keep away from it and still doing their things pre-COVID, and that kind of put kind of a spanner in the works, as we say, for talent that went and worked for them. But they kind of focus on a lot of homegrown talent, which I think is good for that. But problem with British wrestling now is the UK thing happened, then the Speaking Out movement happened. It kind of made everything all backwards, and then Progress and ICW and Rev Pro and all those kind of took a bit of a hit, and then COVID happened, and then all that stuff. So it's kind of in disarray. But the great thing about British wrestling is it's always done this. It's always been at the top, then it's dropped, then it's gone back up again, then it's dropped. It'll always survive. It'll always go on. It just after COVID, whenever that may be, and the new normal is, they'll get back on their feet and hopefully keep producing shows all over the country of the UK, which helps imports go to America and back. Help the independents push the people who the wrestling schools, and then people who want to get up to a major promotion or even the independents. It was actually Julie who Julia, I keep forgetting which one it was, who actually I spoke to her one time because my friend's quite and she was like, "Oh, you like me? You should get in the ring. You should get in our training." Because get in the ring, you crazy? I'm not one of them ones that goes, "Yeah, well, I think I'm a bit too good for pro wrestling." I was like, "No, I'm not getting in the ring because I'm a pussy and I'm not getting slammed." I said, "Anything else, I'm all good." I said, "I'm not going to the professional wrestling ring, although it's awesome, but." I'm like, man, at this stage, no. But obviously, kudos to they really drum those guys and gals, through the drills and everything else like that. So, from the British side, to put on a bow on that topic, hopefully it will re-blossom once again and help the guys to get over. And in fact, thinking about what I mentioned with those guys, Anthony Ogogo, who is on AEW. He's from where I live, Lowestoft.
Oh, okay, cool.
He's probably closer than Kip Sabian, because Kip Sabian's Galston, which is a little bit further, but they're all in that East Anglia area. It's interesting that Anthony Ogogo is kind of from a place that's kind of not, the greatest, although all the people now are like, oh my God, he just said that about our town. But he was a bronze medalist in the Olympics. But the thing with him is that's not what he'll be known for. What he'll be known for is actually the TV reality show Big Brother.
Yes.
You guys had that in America, and we did a series which was like a super one where instead of regular people, it would be people who had special talents, like a politician, a musician, a dancer, an artist. He was obviously the sportsman, the boxer. And that's what he's more known for, because I can't remember. I think he made it to the final. I don't think he won, but that's actually what he's more famous for in the actual boxing. But it's interesting when I've been seeing that storyline pan out with him and Cody, and he's called himself the governor. I'm like, nobody calls anybody that since like the 1900s. Sweeping the streets. But one thing that's interesting, which you can get away with in America, if you ever see him do that,
yeah,
he's basically calling you a wanker.
Wanker. Yeah.
Yeah. We can say, if you say it on TV here, it's like, you can't say that. But if they say it in America, because you guys don't like see it as a swear word, they can always call everyone a wanker. So I just love it when he's in the crowd, you're a fucking wanker. And I just love it. It's real good. So if you want to swear at someone in America and they're not really sure what it is, just call them a wanker. It's as simple as that. Anyone can contact me and I can tell you what a wanker means. I don't want to get too graphic on the best effing podcast.
When did you started, like, what kicked it off that you enjoyed, like that was it, like I like professional wrestling?
I can't remember the very first thing, but what I do remember is on Saturday evenings, I used to go around to my cousin's house and he'd be watching the old WCW. And in the UK, which kind of swayed it each way, WCW was on free television, so on our Channel 5.
Oh.
WWE was on paid. It was Sky Sports, which they've been for 20 odd years now. So WCW was easy to get because you literally just turned it on, and regardless of what the time zone difference is. But that was it. My cousin was a big fan of Sting. That was his guy. Sting was his huge sort of. He doesn't really watch it now, but it's funny when I'm like, Sting, yeah, he's still doing it. I'm like, how old is he? Like, he's like 62, and I'm like, wow, 62-year-old still. He still got it, That's what it is. That was kind of what I started watching. I did actually watch more WWE, even though WWF at the time, because I don't know why we just kind of went to it. We felt that WWF was more edgy, because this was Attitude Era time. This is 97, 98, and even my parents were like, should we let you watch this? When you got Steve Austin coming out and drinking beer, giving the finger, DX telling you to suck it, you got Goldust doing some weird stuff, The Undertaker and Kane, who scared the level of the shit out of me. So it was kind of, but we kind of got away and watched it anyway. But WWE was actually what I probably watched more regularly, even though I was actually introduced to WCW beforehand. And then, it was just hooked on that. Steve Austin was my favorite. I loved the Hardy Boys. I thought Jeff Hardy was the coolest motherfucker.
Right? He was my favorite. It was always Sean, and Jeff. Then I discovered about ECW. So Jeff dropped down a little bit, and I was a big fan of RVD. Then it was
yeah. Jeff Hardy always
he influenced the Hardy Boys influenced a lot, but Jeff most definitely influenced a lot of people, man.
Yeah, he had a great style, really, really great style. And again, this is great. I feel like at that time, what was great about it is everybody on the card mattered. Everybody had a story. So I'm talking main event was Austin and Rock and Taker and Kane. Your mid-ish, which is kind of like your Crash, Al Snow, Hardcore Holly, Steve Blackman-esque. Then you kind of real lowish, which is like your really weird. I'm trying to remember that guy, Tiger Ali Singh, I think his name.
Oh yeah.
And like the weird oddities.
Oddities, ICP,
the other ones?
Kurgan.
Yeah, like the real like kind of what the hell is this? And was it Public Enemy?
Public Enemy was there. but they mostly represented ECW.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Who was the ones? Too Cool. That was it. I can't believe what Too Cool Public Enemy.
I mean, you're somewhat close. I mean,
yeah.
almost.
But then, of course, tag teams, which everyone talks about: Hardys, Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and then kind of bringing in, even though weird tag teams like Jericho and Benoit, and then Too Cool, which I already mentioned.
I think the best thing about that, I think you and I can agree, is the Attitude Era. Especially during that time period, there was something for everyone, and majority didn't have the same style.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like everybody was different, especially in character, especially in looks. Nowadays everybody, I feel, almost have the same similar style and almost a similar look. It's kind of hard because back then everybody had like different gimmicks. Like, you had The Undertaker, then you have Kane. All right, cool. Like, if you don't like The Undertaker, at least you can like Kane. And you have The Rock, fancy suit, shades, while Austin is a beer drinking redneck.
Yeah.
Then you have Chris Jericho, long hair and flashy, whatever, represent the Y2J. Then you have, okay, if you don't like Edge and Christian, goth style, then you have the Hardy Boys, which is almost that during that time period, like they weren't Team Extreme already. They were still that gothy style, that gothy look, but I guess they're more popular. Chicks dig them,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And they had the High Flyer, while Edge and Christian were still a little bit of technical, but the Hardys were the High Flyer. So such that style, which is pretty cool. I gotta admit, like everybody had different styles, which is a little bit for everybody, and I like that. I think that's one part I did like about the Attitude Era, was that WCW didn't have, I don't know.
I think it's.
WCW had the cruiserweights and all that stuff, but I feel like in personalities, I think that's where WWE won for Attitude Era.
I think it's because, like I mentioned, everybody had a story. Everyone was wrote for. So even though the cruiserweights were great for WCW, they just stick them out there and say just have a match.
Right?
Whereas
yeah.
There was stories even in that lower card, even though the terrible Al Snow boss man kennel thing, which it's terrible. But even so, everyone had a story. It wasn't, the lower card tend to not have anything, and they just kind of use it as like a filler. But that's what I'm saying, everybody. And I see your point with that. I'm not into, I don't know if we'll cover current wrestling a little bit later, but I think the difference as well is the talent kind of already had honed their craft by the time they got to WWE.
Yeah.
And there's a difference because they've kind of gone round to each other, and they had to have unique styles because prior to that was the 80s and it was all about the big guy. So if I can't be big, I might as well be bold and look different.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been told, like, man, everybody has black hair and a black beard. And then I was like, no, they don't. And then he gave me like all these pictures. I was like, man, they do. And then I was thinking,
especially now in WWE, the different evolutions of like the perfect Drew McIntyre. It's like, yeah, you had the stuff, then you have the Sandow, then you have this, then you had the Roman.
Their issue now, though, I think, is they recruit so many guys and girls. It gets to a point where you're going to get lost in the shuffle naturally, because if you've got like 200 odd wrestlers there, how are you going to stand out?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it time is wrestling ability, but again, we've got that too. But that's what I feel like they did with the UK stuff. It was just, let's just gobble these guys up, just so they don't go nowhere, and then they'll be contracted to us for about 3 years. We'll do something. We might do something. Depends how I feel in a year's time, and then we'll let you go. And we've got budget cuts because, well, I need to save some money, and I'm going to get rid of you. So it's more like these releases that have happened over the past year recently. Everyone gets angry, and I sort of glance at it, and in a way, when you hire that many people, you're going to have to eventually get rid of them because you're going to have too much of a roster. But yeah, that's kind of from watching wrestling in those kind of late 90s. The difficult thing for me as a kid was because of time zone difference. Of course, wrestling would be on you guys sort of 7-8 p.m. in the evenings, and it would always be 1 a.m., 2 a.m. over here. So we'd see back in the day.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's been like that for years and years because it had to be live. And yeah, you'd have repeats that were 7, 8 p.m. in the evening. But I'd say you talk to anybody from the UK. If anyone wants to catch Monday Night Raw, it would always be early Tuesday morning, 2 a.m. every single time, right up to 4. So back when I was a kid, we'd get the old VCR player out. So you'd record, you record it, and so you wake up the next morning and watch it on the VCR tape. That's how far back I'm going.
It's funny because in East Coast, we get it perfectly at that 8 o'clock slot, 8 p.m. slot. For the West Coast, they would watch it at like 4 p.m.
Oh,
so it was just a little bit interesting that they would watch that, something like that to me. But now here you are watching it at like 1 and 2. But that's how I would watch ECW, because it would come on that late. And I wouldn't get that channel here in Jersey and stuff like that. So luckily for me, I had a house in PA, and I would get that nice Philadelphia channel, because I had a house in PA, and it would we would have a SmackDown, which was at 8 and whatnot, and they would repeat it on Saturday at 8. So an ECW would come on Saturday right after SmackDown. So like we would have like
that's cool.
Yeah, so it was like 8 to 10. We would wait an hour, and it will come on at 11 p.m. And during that time, luckily my parents were asleep, but I would watch it at 11 p.m. And know what comes on also at 11 p.m.? It's like those Girls Gone Wild, like 1-800, call me now and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm like lowering the thing on my remote and shit like that, and you get those like call me now, ooh, Girls Gone Wild, and I'm just like, yo. So you imagine like 11-year-old me enjoying like this stuff and telling my friends on the following Monday. It's like, oh my god. Yeah, man, it was fun. I think that's what I love about like easy.
Do you still do that now?
Do
you still do that now? Catch the channels early in the morning. Make sure the computer's not looking at while you watch it.
No, it's something. I guess something related to that is when I'm ordering a pay-per-view. I remember I did Ring of Honor Best in the World. It was in 2012. So, order this pay-per-view. So you skim down one more channel. Oh, you want Debbie Does Dallas or Big Butt Booty, blah, blah. Would you order one of this? So I have a picture of that too. I'm like, order the pay-per-view. And like, which one should I order, guys? Ring of Honor Best in the World or Big Meats and White Meat? I don't know. It was just so funny.
It just goes to show you that what our priorities are. We didn't want to see women. We want to see wrestling. I wanted wrestling. But the annoying thing about that story is because sometimes wrestling goes over the time limit. So for us, it would be like 2 to 4, 2 to 5. With VCRs, you'd have a set time, 3 hours, 4 hours. So if it goes over time, it cuts off.
Oh, cuts off. Yeah, you can. That's
the main event, and it goes over time, right?
And normally Raw would get that extra 15 minutes in and all that stuff. Oh, that sucks.
So but we wouldn't know that. It would probably be at the time where it'd be like, okay, it's going to stay on for another 15 minutes. But with the VCR player, you've set it at that time. So then you're like, oh my God, what happened? And then internet wasn't as advanced with like broadband. It was like shitty AOL or whatever we had, dial up. So I couldn't go on and find out what happened. I have to wait for the repeat on the other day. And then it's really disappointing if you built yourself up to think, oh, what happened? Do you think this guy won? Do you think this guy won? And then you find out on the next day and you watch it and it's like, oh, nothing happened. It was just a DQ. You know, for fuck's sake, what a shitty ending. But no, that's pretty much, from a kid. And then just kind of as a grown up, watched it and sort of checked out more things. And I think from that, you tend to check out pretty much everything there is. So I check out the independents in America. So what have they got? So I was a religious watcher of Ring of Honor for a while. Checked out what Chikara did. Chikara was kind of crazy. Saw what PWG was doing as well. And then, of course, everybody checks out New Japan. And then you see what's going on with Old Japan, Noah, and, just kind of history behind that and things like that. It's weird for me. I've done this a lot on the podcast that I've said, but it seems to be as I got older, I had this weird fascination with territory wrestling. Like I thought it was like the coolest damn thing ever, because it was like this outlaw kind of club where it was, you know, we're in a secret club and you can't come in here. If you do, you know, we're going to test you. And no one knew, and you kept kayfabe, brother. And I think for the boys, what a great thing to say, you know, well, I've climbed from the bottom to the top of this territory. You know, what have I got to do now? You know, it's, well, hang around or change. And the great thing would be, no, you know what, go down to Dallas or go over to Tennessee and start from scratch. And I feel wrestling should always be for the boys, like fuck the promoters, because they're always going to do what's best for themselves. And it's a boys thing. So I really love, and that's why I talk to people, even old timers, about, you know, territory wrestling. I just have this weird fascination for it, but I really, really love it because, especially when you see guys who are portrayed as one thing on New York WWE, and then you see other guys and in their early days, and then you think, man, they're really good. You know, people like Matt Bourne before he's Doink the Clown. You know, he's just a general rookie. Ted DiBiase before the $1 Million Man. He's, you know, this kind of blue chipper. Even Kane and Taker and Austin, and how they're just these like cringy baby faces. And even, you know, and it's fascinating to kind of see their progression, their change. So I've always loved that from, you know, I've always been a weird fan of Texas and the Von Erichs. I really love those matches. I really love, because it's that really old baby face you don't get anymore. And that's just, we like these guys because they're genuine, not because they're like, hey, everyone, we love you. It's just, these are our guys. These are our boys. I love them. And they came across as genuine.
That's true, because in territories, there weren't that much gimmicks at all. It was all about the realism, and I represent Texas, or I represent the South, you know, and I'm gonna and normally if you're a top guy in the territory, that makes you a babyface. You know, it's really interesting. Like Lawler was amazing as a babyface, man, and you know, it's just, I felt like Ric Flair, even though he was the rich man gimmick, he was always the heel, you know, especially if you represent a territory. I mean, he conquered a lot of territories and all that stuff, and he was popular.
Well, it's interesting kind of finding out, you know, history on some of them. You said Lawler, you know, look at Memphis, look at Bill Dundee, look at Jarrett's, you know, all those guys. And I'm not going to say, oh, I like the pure wrestling, because wrestling's so many different things and so many different things. Everyone's got their own opinion of it and different things. It's just interesting, I think, to find out that kind of. I like that sort of nuance of the smoky dungeonist kind of club, the small ring, the really small crowds, and that really it's just kind of stripped
more
down.
Personal.
Stripped down, you know, kind of like how Punk used to be, where it's more intimate with the audience and people coming out and just kind of be like, you look at them and you're like, that guy there's a bad dude, or that guy's a good dude. Just that genuine, you know, none of this, whatever, turn the channel over. Just, I want to see this. I'm invested. I really want to check it out.
I got a question, because you're all the way in Europe. So you talk about WWF and WCW and all that. Was there any local promotion that would pop on TV and you would watch? Was there any wrestling, like local wrestling, that was aired out, or no?
There's always been a scene here. It's been very much underground. You know, if you go with the history of England, especially for, it's always been weird. So we've had the height of it has always been the 1970s, because it had a TV deal. It's called World of Sport. World of Sport wasn't just wrestling. World of Sport was just kind of like loads of different, football and Olympic type stuff, and then wrestling. So whenever you hear Big Daddy, you know, that's the guy who was like the baby face, the big baby face. You know, he was big, but professional wrestling in Europe in the 70s wasn't about being real jacked. It was about girth. Like, you had to be just a big guy. And Big Daddy was a guy who had a big belly, but all the kids loved him, and he went to all these hospitals. He's kind of like the national treasure, if you will, for that. And you know, the 1970s, you've had kind of everything was in like holiday parks. It was done in holiday parks like Butlers and things like that. For any UK viewers know what Butlins is, for throwing that there, and kind of small dungeon kind of things as well. That TV deal went for a little while, and then, you know, it had guys like Les Kellett, it had Mick McManus, these kind of real good heels. Even the women, they had like Klondike Kate and all those kind of guys and gals. And then everybody always says, well, British wrestling died when the TV deal ended with World of Sport. And I get that from a national point of view, but it really did. Like, professional wrestling in Europe and England's never died. It's just, you know, how much do you want it? How much do you want to see it? And how much do you get? So yeah, it didn't have a TV deal. It was on ITV, which was one of our sort of main channels over here. It didn't happen. And then what basically happened was it was just underground. It just kind of went to the small, you know, you'll hear people and probably stories when they probably bring out, you know, guys like Robbie Brookside, who I know works for WWE now. And he was in that kind of, you know, I'm not making any money. I'm literally going from town to town. Do I want to do this? Do I want to continue to do this? And, it, you know, it's weird, I guess, to try and compare America to Britain is our independence kind of was our big thing because we didn't have any TV deal. We didn't have anything on. I know they've tried to revive it a few times, but it's kind of fell flat on its face. So again, it's always had to sort of rebuild that. So basically, Paige's family has been the main one where I used to live in the east of England. And then, because I moved to the northwest, it's a bit different. They're kind of where your mains, like Preston City Wrestling, all those kind of ones, and you know where like Wade Barrett came from and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's always just been kind of low key. It's just Britain has this really weird kind of love-hate relationship with professional wrestling because our sort of history of sports always been football and boxing. Professional wrestling's kind of looked like, you know, that fake stuff, and I get it. But even when I was a kid, you know, I only knew one person who liked wrestling. If I said to them, you know, oh, what do you like? I'd be afraid to say wrestling because they was like, what the hell is that? It was like taboo. It's kind of like how anime was. It was kind of like how comic books were. It was kind of how video games were. Marvel, all these things. And like, wrestling? What the hell is that? Like, oh, you like greasy guys, you know, on each other, like, you know, the usual kind of crap when you're a kid. So it's kind of, you know, up and down, up and down. It's only really sort of early 2000s when, you know, when WWE went higher, it became the big North American company. And I think that kind of overshadowed it over here because young kids were being exposed to North American wrestling. So they didn't look at British wrestling because it was like, well, that's crap. You know, you're not Hulk Hogan, you know, you're not Savage, you're not big and jacked and all those things. So they kind of had an idea of what that was. But British wrestling isn't just wrestlers that are British. British wrestling's an actual wrestling style. It's 3 rounds, and you know, it's for a time limit. And what I love about it, which it would never happen now, it would be 2 guys putting each other in the longest holds you would ever see in your life. I'm talking like a 7 minute, you know, backstretch or you know, headlock for about 4 minutes. And most people would sit there now. If they're out now, they'd be like, oh, this is boring. Yeah, it's not over, you know, 1 star. But then it was like that you sat there and you watched it because it was like, these are tough dudes doing it. So that style doesn't really happen much anymore. Oh. So I bet you they'll probably bring that out in NXT UK. I bet Triple H will probably find that. And I don't know if they've already done it yet, by the way. I don't watch it, so I don't know. Yeah. So WWE kind of dominated from that, and it's really only been since probably the 2010s, early 2000s, where, you know, Wrestle Talk TV's tried to bring it back into the fold of things. Progress has done their thing. Rev Pro, it kind of became cool to like wrestling because the guys were cool and then hip, if you want to.
Who were like, I don't want to say like Regal and all that stuff, but maybe that's just the cliche in me. Who were like the top guys to look out for, or I guess brought it back, you know, because you do mention Rev Pro, and, you know, and majority of the famous YouTubers are also like European, British, like Wrestle Talk and all that stuff. So I always thought, like, yeah, I know they must have some huge wrestling background in Europe outside of that, but the fact that you mentioned the main 3, WCW, WWF, or ECW, and all that stuff, like, I always wondered, like, was there a channel, or who were, I guess, British Mount Rushmore or European Mount Rushmore wrestlers? You know, like, would Regal be in the Mount Rushmore? Would Will Ospreay? I doubt. You know, maybe he'll be like top 10 now, for British, European wrestlers, you know, but
yeah,
I guess who would be the Mount Rushmore?
Ooh, that's a good one. People will always put Big Daddy on there just because of if you don't know it, your grandparents know it because it was everywhere. Yeah, you could. I mean, there's two ways of looking at this: British wrestlers who are just British treasures, if you want to use that, or British wrestlers that made it in America. So you could look at that two different things.
I mean, he reached that pop culture to the point where if he was in WWE, that's why I would watch that, because he represents us. And I'm guessing would that be Regal, the British Bulldog, Dynamite Kid, or you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'd probably have to go with. I don't want to get too like old school because you know then it gets to a point where people are like, who the hell is that? And people would argue with it. But yeah, I would probably put on there. Yeah, I put Regal on there. I'd probably put Robbie Brookside on there as well. And if we want to put current generations, yeah, we can put. I don't want to put Will Ospreay on there because I feel like then we get into the whole current generation, which I feel like is separate on there. But I would probably put guys like Ricky Knight because you know these guys have been doing it for a long time, and those three I mentioned, Robbie Brookside, William Regal, Ricky Knight, have been doing it all you know the same era, the same thing since you know the early 90s. We're going way into 2000, so longevity. If you want to do it on you know this side, you know, yeah, Will Ospreay was the breakout. Marty Scurll was a breakout. So was Jimmy Havoc, although that went south.
I mean, I guess I would put Dunn there because, I mean, I guess Trent Seven, those guys, like you know, Pete Dunne.
The Progress guys have always going to be on that list because there are there's going to be that they kind of broke into that American scene. You could say that then with you know Finn Balor and Jordan Devlin and even Becky Lynch and Moth Martina and all these kind of guys and gals, and then anyone who's on the UK thing on the
because they were like what the early 2010 2009 like oh shit, wrestling is cool again, we're supporting the indies, and now it's getting a bunch of noise, so like who's to look out for, you know? Because I remember all right, so I got back into it. I got back into wrestling when I saw the famous Punk pipe bomb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then next thing you know, I'm like, what's NXT? Oh snap! WWE got their own app. Shit, that's cool. And everybody said, "Yo, check out NXT." And I'm like, okay. Now I got NXT, and I saw I believed the hype. It was dope. I'm like, oh shit. Now thanks to NXT. It got me to discover about Ring of Honor, New Japan. I'm like, oh, there's more stuff outside of WWE, you know, than the New Japan. I learned about Progress. I learned about TPWG. So I'm like, this stuff is amazing and all that stuff. So because it's all thanks to Punk's pipe bomb. Like, okay, what's New Japan? What's Ring of Honor? You know, then I discovered about Ring of Honor and I learned about the many scenes out here. So the top 10 of like my East Coast was like, these are the guys to look out for because you never know if they're gonna go to NXT. And the person of me is like, I like seeing a person grow from watching them to a local scene to making it to like local television. Because that's like I know him. So I like that feeling of I know him. I watched it. I watched this guy. Yo, watch it. Because it goes back to I'm watching ECW, telling my friends, yo, check out this guy named Rob Van Dam. Like, who? Like, check out like Sabu, Rob Van Dam, and all that stuff, because it's gonna be dope. And now I'm talking about it on my friends on Facebook or internet. Yo, check out Will Ospreay or Ricochet. Because my friends don't watch indies like that. Maybe now they do, you know, but now look at them, they're on WWE. And that same exact feeling must be for you. It's like, yo, Will Ospreay or Marty Scurll or Becky Lynch. I don't know Becky now, but yo, you're gonna be on WWE. Watch, you know, that's the next big thing, you know.
It's pretty much the NXT UK thing pretty much gobbled up majority of the young talent that were in sort of Progress and a little bit of ICW as well. So I'm talking off the top of my head. like Dave Mastiff and Eddie Dennis, Flash Morgan Webster, Kenny Williams, Rampage Brown, who was I really liked him. He was a bad dude.
Yeah.
I know the usual like three they use is like Trent Seven, Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne. So I get all.
Did you say that those four really, because those are technically the main four, to next thing they branched off to, and they made it bigger because they were heavily advertised, like Trent, Dunne, Tyler Bate. Like when I say they did a tour in the US, because Dunne had that championship for God knows how long, so he was representing and actually wrestling that title off to a bunch of guys in the tri-state to advertise that NXT UK, or these are the next. Because I saw them, I'm like, oh my god, like they were in Battle Club Pro, they were in everything, and a lot of people were tuning into those guys.
When you're obviously a wrestler in Britain, because we don't have like our big main television state, and especially now, it doesn't really need it because we've got all the streaming services online, and you can find people on YouTube and all that stuff. Here it's you got to go to America, you got to go to Japan, you got to do all these things because then you're legitimate. So they would go around to those kind of independents like the ones you just mentioned, because that's kind of put your name out there, and then that would spiral. It's just kind of making the connections. So those guys are the kind of main ones. But then again, with people that we're talking about who aren't even on there, who's kind of left in this country. So I know, saying a name from where I used to live in Norwich, Ricky Knight Jr., who is his grandson, who is got a great physique on there as well. There's from Rev Pro JJ Gale. There's what they call the Young Guns, not the Young Bucks, Young Guns, and just kind of people who are sort of left around to create their own stuff as well. I know Dynamite Kid's nephews are a tag team, and I can't remember what they're called, but I know they're wrestling. But I cannot remember what their names are. But that was kind of weird and interesting because Dynamite Kid, I know, had 2 girls and a son, but it was actually the nephews actually got into the business. So you are seeing that a lot. I know Davey Boy Jr., he's always been one that's kind of around. Yeah, he's kind of.
He made his debut like yesterday at SmackDown.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
that's actually pretty cool, man.
So yeah, he's kind of the one with it. But I'm probably missing some name, but they're the only ones I can think of of the top of my name. But that's pretty much it. You'll have your old school, your new school, and then they'll always call new school American style because of the old school is the old style of British wrestling.
Interesting. All right, so we're gonna take a short little break, ladies and gentlemen, and we're gonna talk about CAW and Efed.
Yeah, CAW. CAW is life. It is life.
Hello there, this is the aerial assassin Will Ospreay, the current Revolution Pro Wrestling British Heavyweight Champion, and I am from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and you are watching Xtreme Virtual Pro Wrestling. So don't forget to comment, subscribe, and get a like out of it, because it's about to get extreme.
Extreme! What's good, everyone? Welcome back to XVPW's Best Effin' Podcast. I got the homie Jamco in here. I would say he's probably a veteran in CAW.
Oh, don't you do that to me. Don't do that. Oh,
I saw. Well, I went to his YouTube channel, the FWZ YouTube channel, and I gotta say, I did a little bit of research, and his oldest video is back in 2007 or 2008.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
All right, I gotta ask you this: did you have other YouTube channels before this, or this was your main one?
I think I had a different one before that, and it was I used to make videos using The Sims as like a soap opera type thing. I think it was Sims 2 or Sims 3,
Yeah.
And I used to do like different camera angles, pretending like, there was a family and all these things happening. That was actually my first little like creative stuff.
Yeah.
And then I deleted all those videos because I thought, nah, this sucks. Because it was really easy to do it on PC because you could just record anything on PC and do different like scenes, what they do if the child trying to sneak into the house and from being out late, and just like really looking back now, I'm like, what was I doing? But it was a bit of fun. But I started doing that first before I then went, okay, I'm gonna do some wrestling stuff.
Interesting. All right. So I guess this is where we're going to tell our old war stories, but I guess keep it a little bit short and whatnot. But what made you kickstart FWZ? Like, what was in the mindset? Because I'm pretty sure back in the day, outside of No Mercy, SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain, all that stuff, we always created our characters, blah, blah, blah. But we never actually took initiative into producing a wrestling show and uploading it onto YouTube. I mean, yeah, YouTube was back in the day, but I didn't have that mindset. I was like, oh man, I would love to do something like this. I would write it down and all that stuff and show my friends, but I never got into production mode. And then here you are uploading a video in 2007 and calling it FWZ episode 1 or something. Like, what kickstarted that?
Did you watch it?
I watched a little bit of it. I saw
it's so bad.
But you have legit, like, this will be your network, man. This is like your territory. This is your Smoky Mountain. This is your,
good point.
I mean, when people date back and say, hey, I did this, Jamco, I think you're the only one I know who actually has footage of 2007 of your own show. So what kickstarted, man? How old were you? 15?
14, I think. 14
and uploading a video onto YouTube. You know what I was doing when I was 14 years old? I was jerking off to freaking Beulah McGillicuddy and all that stuff.
Whoa.
That's what I was doing at 14. There was no, I mean, I had like what? I didn't even have a computer back then. So yeah. But here you are.
Like everybody, you use the previous games, and SmackDown 1, SmackDown 2 for the PS1, No Mercy, Warzone, WCW versus NWO Revenge on Nintendo 64. There's no Royal Rumble game on the Mega Drive, which you guys call the Genesis. Day of Reckoning and stuff on GameCube, WrestleMania 18, 19, and I think that's kind of the majority I've mentioned. Yeah. I saw SMF, the Story Mode Federation. I like looking at people who had recorded videos of wrestling games in just, I loved season mode. I always loved the story. That's always why I get the games. So sometimes I would search up, what certain things were in season mode. Because like SmackDown 2, for example, you had to play that in game for 100 years to get different cutscenes. So I would be like, what did you get on the 100th year? I think it's something like Pat Patterson or something lame like that. But you would unlock the guys which was always fun because it felt like you unlocked something. That's how I came across Story Mode Federation. They were doing videos where they were just doing kind of celebrities with Here Comes the Pain and Just Bring It. And it was like Bob Saget and Bill Cosby and, stuff you could do today, like Osama bin Laden and George Bush and all these kind of old ones. And it was just fun because I was like, how did he create a celebrity? Because, by the way, this is before photo capture. This is changing the eyes here and the eyebrows there and nose and everything. And I was more impressed, like, man, how did he make a celebrity like that? So I thought, I wonder where. So I managed to track him down. The guy who did it, his name was Josh, Bob Ross, he had some forums. And I asked him, how did you do that? And, he's saying, I went to this website, it's called caw.ws, and it would have this list of how to make even wrestlers or celebrity. And it was detailed. It was, change the left eyelid 200 and such to get it all proper. Some of them look good, some of them terrible. But that's how you try and make a guy or a gal. So I thought, man, could I do this? Like, could I physically do it? Because, again, there was no in-game recording. So I just started picking his brain, to be honest with you. And most people were like, how are you asking him? Because people thought he was like larger than life and could talk to him. But I just kind of went, might as well ask him. I was going to start doing something like that with my brother. And he didn't want to do it with me. He said he would, but he didn't. Because he was worried about recording footage of a video game and putting it online because he's like, surely that's copyright. And I asked Josh, I said, is that copyright? He said, no, it's like fair use. You'll be okay. Kind of ironic now with Twitch and all that. Now, I was so worried about, but we generally were. But I ended up doing it on my own. And I just said to him, what audio do you use? How do you do this? That's probably really, really annoying, but I just wanted to know. He said, use Pinnacle Studio for your actual editing. Such dog shit, but it got the job done. Yeah. And then I don't know how, but I thought, how do I record it? So what I used to do was I used to have a DVD player. When I would record, I used a DVD recorder, get the DVD disc you could burn onto, and just record through the TV onto the DVD CDs, and then put the CDs in the computer or the laptop and drag and drop it onto the computer. So I was burning through so many CDs.
That's so much CD, ladies and
gentlemen. It is, but
oh my God.
That's why I started getting there's the DVD-R, which is just recordable. You can only record it once. And then there's DVD re-recordable, which you then can wipe it and then do it again. So I'm not going through CDs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had these stack of CDs.
My man Jamco did the capture card before it was even a capture card.
But it was a pain in the ass because you had to do it through a certain channel and then record it all, and I wouldn't have stopped recording like we do now. I had to do the whole thing. So so much editing on, even the menu screen or afterwards and stuff like that. But
yeah,
going back and looking at that, it was man, that seems really archaic now when I look back and think that I had to keep putting in and out CDs, and then imagine being like, oh crap, I forgot the entrance, and I got to take that out and put it back in. And this is like PS2, which was kind of unique in its own time. But no, that's what we did. And then I thought, let's start something. What am I going to call it? The reason FWZ came out was because I called it the Forcible Wrestling Zone. And I don't know why I said forcible, because that doesn't even make any sense. So that I really don't know why I called it that. I just thought, screw it, we'll do FWZ. It'd be a zone. It wouldn't be like people were doing like Wrestling Federation or Entertainment or Impact Pro and all these kind of shows. And then pretty much after I'd picked his brain, I got all the things that I needed and thought, right, I'm gonna do this. But that was not gonna be original characters. It was gonna be everything. It was gonna be original. It was gonna be celebrities. And it was gonna be wrestlers.
Interesting. So YouTube came out and you dropped that first episode, and I mean, because it's YouTube. All right, so you uploaded it on 2007 or 8. Did you already knew that you were gonna upload it onto YouTube already, or you just thought of this stuff and you say, I did it for fun, I'm about my friends over, hey, look what I made? Or you already knew about YouTube during that time already?
Yeah, because again, Josh uploaded all the stuff on YouTube. That was kind of obvious. Yeah. And even back then, people were looking for an alternative. And the only alternatives were Dailymotion and I think Vimeo, I think was one. But
Vimeo.
It was harder for copyright back then, because at least now they'll say you won't get monetization for it, where it was just taking it down.
And you're like a 14-year-old learning doing all of this stuff. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Well, you say that, and when I say it out loud, I'm like, it was nothing. But actually, my parents said it to me, and you said it to me, and I think actually I kind of have to give myself credit that I was doing that at 14. Like, it weren't great, but just...
I mean, you had a hobby. Like, it's a hobby, video games and all that stuff. But the fact that you were editing and everything like that, you could have done that's actually a lot of talent for a 14-year-old. I mean, I am 36, and like I said, I was 14. I drawing, okay, whatever. But you were into videography, computer work, editing, producing, writing your own show, et cetera, et cetera. And now you have something to look back on. That's actually pretty impressive, man. And
I did think of it where it's something that's, again, that I don't really think of, but like you said, the 14-year-old doing something else. And actually, I'm gonna have to give myself credit. Yeah, it wasn't great visually, but it's trial and error. And the fact that I even put something together then, I didn't know about audio and all those things. And yeah, some of them look terrible and sound terrible, but I just did it. It's like throw shit at the wall and see what works. And so I guess again, I have to give him credit.
You were putting your dues in because people have it now. Like you can say to people, hey, you have it easy. back then I had to take this.
Yeah, you're right.
You have
like an old timer.
You have a capture card. You have a capture card. You have streaming. You can share from PlayStation 4 to YouTube without even doing it. Back in my day, I had to.
Yeah, I guess I don't really realize it because again,
and you did this on a freaking a really horrible computer back in 2007. I mean, you even had an HP
card.
Right? People have the Mac, people have the Asus or something. You had dial-up. I mean, I can only imagine uploading a 10-minute footage from there to YouTube on I don't did you even have high-speed computer back then? You didn't even have FiOS. I don't know if you even had FiOS. Yeah, something else different.
We were on AOL. And I think we just got broadband when that happened. I would have never been able to do it on dark because I would have racked up a ridiculous phone bill. But that was when. But yeah, it wasn't high speed. I mean, for me, when broadband came out for the first time, I thought it was amazing that you could have like the same thing on two laptops. Like, oh my god, we've got two things on the laptops. But yeah, it would take hours to upload it. Plus, then there was a 10-minute limit. So for a full show, you would have like 7-8 parts. So it'd have to be, you'd have to cut it up and then put it in and then put it in and then put it in and then put it in. So yeah, that was more annoying because especially if you think of like the pay-per-views now, that's like 30 parts.
Correct. Yeah.
So, people are watching 30 odd sets of 10 minutes, you would get bored because you think, oh, and then, you'd have to think, well, do I plan it out as if people were watching it as 10 minutes or do I just cut 10 minutes out? And I weren't that advanced, so I would just cut it. So I mean, in the middle of a match, in the middle of a segment, or do you write it as in separate 10 minutes? I just cut the damn thing because I wasn't that smart back then. So, but yeah, you'd have to do different parts, but it was fun. Like I said,
it was.
That's what it was. That was what it was all about.
That money right after this conversation, you're gonna go back to your very old video and just watch it now.
Well, I am, but I'm probably gonna criticize myself and think, what would
you should really do a watch along, you and I.
Yeah, you're right. I should probably do that with some guys, and
right,
because I do sometimes go back if I want to put like a small little Easter egg or something in for like a show or something, like an old commentary line from when I'm younger, and there are things I look at and I think I do not remember that. I do not remember the character.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but how did you do commentary? Do you have a little mic and all that stuff? Like, how did you put that together?
It wasn't a headset. It was a small, like, square mic, but it was really thin. It was like a weird, thin silver. I don't know how to describe it. It was just a really thin silver. It wasn't a wire. It was covered around like a big silver block, and then there was a small little black mic, but I could hold it rather than a headset. But yeah, you could hold it around.
That's fucking great.
That was okay, I guess. But again, that's
you're innovative, man. You are that's dope. So okay, now you upload to YouTube and all that stuff. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know, but this guy got 10,000 something subscribers. Back then in 2007, did you remember like releasing like or getting your first 100? Like, I did it. Or, how was that like? I mean, did you have a goal? Because, like I said, you're 14. You're uploading stuff to YouTube. Did you care about subscribers or views? Or you just want to upload your video and maybe you get some comments here and there, but...
I cared about subscribers. I cared about views. I cared about it all because I was using that as a tool of, well, this shows, whether I'm good or not, right? So... I was still in high school and I was like, watch this, and showing everybody. And
so you were sharing stuff. You were also a promoter, and you
in high school. Yeah.
Did you create little flyers and say, hey?
No, I would just be like, I had like these old phones. I said, hey, look at my show, check it out. And I didn't know wrestling, so I got known in school as the guy that did the wrestling videos. Yeah. And some people, would shit on it, but some people would be like, actually, that's pretty cool. Like, what you're doing. Some people kind of knew what wrestling was, some didn't, so they kind of looked at it that. Obviously, some just made fun of my little accent and be like, "Hi, everyone, welcome." But that was kind of my, well, surely if people from high school were watching it, right? Everyone else was watching it, and I tried to say to Bob, or Josh, try and promote it for the SMF forums, and some people did watch it, and I had a small little fan group. It wasn't loads, but it was like 4 or 5. But I liked that because it was kind of, I'm doing it for you guys because you enjoy it, and you know, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, what's next. But yeah, I did care about the subscriber. I cared about it all because probably wasn't really smart. We may come on to that later, but I can't even remember like the subscribe. I mean, half, even though you say 10,000 for the subscribers, to be honest, half of them are probably dead from years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, you
probably there's only probably like only 100 people probably watch it. To be honest, with you, now anyway.
Yeah, I mean, back then it was the hottest shit. I mean, if you look, especially for your top videos, that's sometimes I go back to my old YouTube channel and I'm like, holy shit, this videos is still getting more views. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know. My tip for YouTubing, especially, I guess you can agree on this too, is always make a video that people can always look back on. There's videos that people will always look back on, you know, like how-to videos. Those get a lot of views because why? It's always something that people do for research. How to do this, how to tie shit, how to cook this. Of course, they're going to get a lot of views. Always have a video that people can always look back on because those are the type of videos that you're gonna get. If your video is basically a one and then done, that's it. I'm pretty sure people will never look back at certain Raws or certain SmackDowns, not unless something really big happened there. Like The Rock's famous people's elbow when he slid and whatnot. People will always look back on it because why? That's a segment that people will always look back on. I'm pretty sure he did numerous people's elbows, but nothing is more popular than that one where he did it with the church shoes and slid and hit the people's elbow on the Bills. That's a video clip that people will always look back on because that's it. Like I said, people always make a video that people will always look back on because that's one that's going to get the most views ever. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of that when it comes to these type of shows and all that stuff. And like I said, you're doing shows since you were freaking 14 years old. And how old are you now? In your 20s, 30s? I don't know, man.
Yeah, 27.
Yeah, 27. See? Amazing. So, okay, you upload to YouTube. You got your 100 and all that stuff. When did people start like learning about you or realizing that like, wow, this guy's been doing it for so long? Like, when did the whole Call of Honor or El Dorado? I'm pretty sure that's like what 4 or 5 freaking years ago, you know. Or when did people start realizing, yo, this guy's been doing this, I'm gonna do it now? Like you learned it from your friend, okay? Now you're doing it, okay? Now this is 2007. What happened in 2009 or 10 now? Where like, okay, this is starting to be a wave. Like this is like a movement. When did that start happening?
The shows you mentioned, though, I don't think were around then, so I don't think they would have started because of me. They probably would have started because of someone else. But
yeah, that I know because I didn't know. I thought I was doing something original with XVPW.
Right.
Next thing you know, I got in because of holy shit, that's people who've been doing this.
I mean, at the time, there were a lot of clicks because, again, this is you know, most people talk about clicks now, and you know, the worst is social media arguments and all that stuff. Back then, they would try and take your videos down. Like if you were friends, and that wasn't like if you were an asshole. It was, you know, you're guilty by association. So, which was good and bad. I have to give thanks to one primal warrior, Smokey, who I put on the SMF forums. I said I need a commentating partner who wants to do it with me, and he answered the call. Biggest regret of my life. I'm kidding. He came on there, and we struck up a friendship. We still have a friendship from then to today, probably my longest friendship. And he did the videos with me, and yeah, some of them were terrible. Some of them were okay. We were a good duo because I didn't mind playing like the innocent idiot, you know, him being the cool guy who would insult me instead of me being like, you know, not trying to get one. If you want to put it in wrestling terms, like not trying to get over, like he was trying to get, you know, at me, and I would kind of play the idiot. I wouldn't, you know, be like, oh, what are you doing, or blah blah blah, and we'd have arguments. But it was a typical face heel thing that worked. Yeah, and that was organically, which people really liked, and some people would be like, why do you keep arguing on there? But it was funny because it was just, it created the usual dynamic audience team you get, which is a face and a heel. So he kind of really helped, I guess, to put it out to people because he'd been in it. You know, I think he'd been in different shows himself as a character. So there were sort of different people he were. I wanted to keep the thing on my own because I was just a kid and I didn't really know much. But at the time, there was sort of your Danny Jackpots running around, and quite controversial people, if you want to say that, who were doing their own shows and kind of really out there stuff. Kerio and Terry Law out there doing their thing, and there's so many shows I can't remember. I know ICCW was out there. Zachary Dackery was doing something. UWO as well, and Superstars of CAW, who does all the comic book and movie shows as well. So I'd seen them as like big guys, and I thought, man, I'm never going to get like that. But I cared real much about it then because I wanted to, but I didn't think I was going to get there because I just didn't really think people watched it. I wasn't confident in that it was that good because, yeah, I know we're saying a 14, and you're right, but compared to them, there wasn't a comparison. I didn't think it was that good, but that kind of started getting out to people, and we had a small one, and then I kind of connected with a guy named Frankie from WEDF who did his own like WWE version of this show, and I'd kind of connected through him, and I did commentary on his shows, and we all knew each other, so that was our kind of little mini group. But I only sort of did that till about 2010, and then I left the whole thing, all of it.
Wow. Interesting.
That stint was only about 3 years.
Oh. well, now, so you mentioned that. So I want to talk about now the Call of Honor El Dorado Championship Wrestling Call All Stars. Like, when did they discover you, or you discovered them?
So the guys that do it now, they're different from who used to do it. So when Call All Stars first started, this was 2000 and what was it, 9 or 10? I can't remember. There was a guy called Dan. His name was Extreme Dan. There was a guy called Steven Syntax. And the show I tried to remember on the podcast I did with you, which I remember now, was called Collision. And that would be like a mashup show. And it was done by Josh of SMF, and all the big shows were on it. And I don't know how the hell I managed to weasel my way in there. I think Smokey might have got me in on that. But, we ended up doing like I ended up doing the longest show because it was like a 3-part street fight, and people were like, yours is the longest, twice the longest. But I was like, you still watched it, whatever. They were criticized for being, they're putting all the big shows on there. What about all the small guys? What about those guys? Why can't they get on there? And that's kind of how Call Stars started. It was to say, well, let's take all the smaller creators who don't get big audiences and let's do something together, because the kind of connotations that were linked to Collision was, they're big guys, they're drama filled, they don't care, and they don't really care for the other people. They're just here to create drama and all these things. So that's kind of what Call Stars was to do, to say, okay, well, let's take all these guys. And then those two I mentioned were the main guys behind it. And that was a few matches of Royal Rumble, and then that would be it. They'd have their own little title. It was kind of meant to be like an NWA kind of thing. So,
right, so let me stop you right there and
okay.
Pause it. So for people who don't know, this is something where this is all done through. I'm pretty sure you guys don't really meet up and have these little meetings. You guys do it all through. You guys communicate, I guess, through Facebook or some type of social media, because some people might, this is something that people talk about through social media and whatnot. And this is how they come up together and communicate, I'm guessing, right? Because I'm pretty sure you guys didn't have a phone call or whatnot, or you didn't fly out.
As much as the forums were that one show, that also kind of became a base for everyone to hang out and talk about different things. And then we'd use Skype as like your secondary thing for it. And
you guys are sending each other footages through some type of web browser like Zoom. Well, not Zoom, not Google Drive, I'm pretty sure, right? I mean, you guys send to a Dropbox. Because you're legit sending big files over the internet.
I don't think we ever sent video, because I can't honestly remember Steven being like, here's the show, here it is. I think we all recorded our own matches, what we were in, and then I guess we would have just maybe those websites that are like file hosting, like SendSpace.
Yeah, there you go.
The link,
the torrent and all that stuff. You're sending stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they download it from that, and then they put it together. I didn't put the show together. Steve did, down other people, and I was the first match on the whole card. It was Smokey, Epic Smokey. He went against a good pal of mine, James Thomas. FOW was his show, and he had his guy named Evan Rockville, I think it was, and we were kind of similar. I played the sort of, my show's better than yours, and we just kind of went back and forth. He was a young kid like me, so we kind of enjoyed it. Ironically, it was a clusterfuck match, because this is where the glitch happens, where the guy's walking into the crowd, like through the barricade. And this is like 2008, I want to say, and technical difficulties we put up on the screen. But it was fun, because it was just, we were just having fun, and it was great. And we had fun with the commentary back and forth. And then, from what I remember, that was kind of it for the matches. And then they did the Royal Rumbles and all those ones afterwards. The first one became a quite good sort of success, because people enjoyed it, and other people felt like they could get in on it, because they wouldn't be turned away like some of the other the other thing that was out there at the time. So it was just a great experience. And then, of course, the sad thing about that show is the guy that I did the show with ended up passing away literally months after, who was pretty much the same age as me, that sort of 14, 15. And it was harder back then to find out what happened, because we didn't have any contact with their family, and we only knew him on Skype and all these things.
Oh wow!
We talked to him, and I can't remember how I found. I think Smokey told me it was like James Thomas has died, and I was like, how? Like we only talked like recently. It's like heart, and I can't remember how he found out either. He said it was a heart failure at 14, 15, and then I'm thinking to myself, did he have a pre-condosed condition? Did it just happen suddenly? I never found out to this day, because I didn't know, was that his real name? Where does he live? I couldn't remember. It was hard to find things out back then in the internet anyway, because there wasn't such much social media in regards to, like, Facebook was not really for young kids then. It was just university students.
Yeah.
MySpace was the thing, and you didn't have that. So never found out, never know what happened. But that was a sad thing, because as much as we have these online friends and things like that, and people can be like, we never met them, so what it is. But you do create a relationship with people, and then it's hard to find out, because you don't know them in real life. So you don't know, how do you find them? How do you contact their parents? So, and it's sad, he's still a little contact on my Skype, and although the message history's gone, which is sad, because of course, like updates and all those things. But that was a sad one, because you never expect someone to go that young, because you don't understand death that much when you're younger. So when they go, it's just kind of sad, because you think, man, I'm never going to see him again, and never going to talk to him again. And it's kind of like, I guess, if you play with people online, and then you ask a guy years later, hey man, where you been? I haven't seen him in a while. And then their relative goes on there and says, oh, I'm his brother.
It's like similar to, like, because we're in the wrestling community, but we're also still gamers, and like, that's like losing one of your team members. I guess that's why you can relate to it, because people have those Call of Duty teams and all that stuff, and especially online friends, gamer friends. We're technically gamer friends if you really think about it. Outside of the real wrestling thing, like, we're gamers, we're gamer friends, and it's like losing one of your favorite members, or like, hey, like, he was my squad mate, he always watched my back and stuff like that. And I could totally understand. And you never met him in real life, but you wish you did. Sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah, you're right. But yeah, that kind of happened, and then pretty much because after like 2010, I basically went away for like 10 years. Nothing particular. It was just I was doing exams. I got older. In this country, like GCSEs and A levels, and then college and all those kind of things. So I just drifted away. One of my laptops that I had basically fried, and I lost everything anyway, so I wasn't going to start fresh. I just kind of drifted off. So during that time would have been probably all the people now who took it out, and I don't know what happened in that time, because. So
you recently came back then. You recently
came so back that's what I'm saying. So It's interesting with people, because there are people who have reached out and said, I was like a young kid like you back then, but I didn't know them, but they were still around. So I'm not saying I'm like the only one left. There's probably some that were there, but we just didn't know each other then. to people who have filled in those kind of blanks on the podcast that have had them come up about, you know, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. And then whenever it's switched over to the guys that do it now and things like that. So anything in that gap, I couldn't tell you because it wasn't here. So when you talk about Koromon and stuff, it wasn't there when it launched, wasn't there when it was having some good shows. Was there when it ended though.
Yeah, I mean, shit happens. But okay, so I created XVPW, or I had the thought of XVPW on 2017 or 18. You know, I had that mindset already. So I guess that's when you came back to 2017 or 18? Or 19? Okay, so you came back in 2000. All right. So we're not going to about XVPW. What? Okay, so now you came back, but you realize fresh, late, whatever, or I'm going to do a podcast. So when did creating a podcast came about?
Well, so I came back, started fresh, and then in a way I kind of was like the old man that came back to the new things. I was like, you can do face capture, you can record on the PlayStation 4, you can flip it.
This is like WWE 2K17, 16?
No, that would be 19, just 19.
Oh, okay.
To people it's normal because it's obviously from the games that change, but I've had a big jump and I thought, man, this is awesome. I can create whatever I want because I've got a face. I can put it on there. It looks more real and all these kind of things I'm thinking of. And I think, man, I can do this. I can do it. And then highlight reel is like, oh my goodness, this is great. I can create it like a movie. So, you know, over the years, I kept in touch with Smokey and a couple others. And he'd always fill me in on the dramas over the years, and I just kind of laugh at it.
Yeah, he does that.
He kept saying to me, you know, he said, you should come back, And I was like, well, I don't know, I don't really think so. And people around here where I live would, you know, be like, I do remember when you used to do those wrestling videos, or I found them on YouTube, and people would, and I would get the odd random comment from someone in those 10 years that would say, hey, man, I really enjoyed this when you come back. And I brushed it off because I was like, I don't do that anymore. But when I look back now, I was like, why the hell are people still watching it? Like, I wasn't even around. So he eventually twisted my arm because, again, I really like the season modes on games. That's why I already get the wrestling game, because of the story. It's why I ever watch movies or TV shows or music. And it said that in 19 is a proper story. Although looking back, it wasn't a great story, but whatever. And that's how I found out the rest of it. So I thought, well, maybe I could start from scratch again, and maybe I could do this. You know, I don't know the community and things like that. I was contacted in 2018 on Skype by Sean Walsh.
From AWF.
Yeah, and he said, we're doing a Call Stars documentary on the 10th one. I know you're part of the first one. Do you want to be a part of it? And I said, I guess, but I've been out of it for a while, so I don't know what I could tell you. And then he obviously did that, and I didn't get anything back of it because he probably had like 1,000 things to deal with. And they did that, and then ironically I ended up coming back a year later anyway. But that was something I was probably going to be involved in. But I can't even remember how that even turned out anyway. I think they did all right with what they had. So to answer your question about the podcast, the show was doing what I was doing, trying to figure out what I wanted, and I did see a certain person's podcast from that group where they did like a YouTube show, and it was, you know, them interviewing people, and I listened to some of them, and it was like it was all to do with drama, and I thought, like, you're dedicating an hour to 2 hours to talk about bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, think of the things you could talk about with people, man. You could talk about their characters. You could talk about their love of wrestling. You could talk about video game stuff. You could talk about, you know, the way they do things, ideas, creative ideas. We can talk about anything. So I thought, well, I'm going to do it because, you know, I love to have a good conversation about whatever. And that's when I started doing it, and I figured out the podcasting stuff and all these things, and had different guys on. We had a chat, and then I always remember, I think it's Inside the Actors Studio, and he'd always have those little questions he'd have at the end, which was like, what do you think's going to be said to you when you go to heaven? What do you like? What don't you like? What turns you on? What turns you off? I know, comparing to that, so who's the most overrated CAW?
Yeah.
I asked it on one show and just kept it going. And then you know, I was getting some good reception for it. People were checking it out. People were really digging it, and a lot of people were, even people I hadn't met before. And I thought, maybe we're on something. So I made myself a few rules. I said, okay, right, well, here's what we're going to do. People can talk about whatever they want, even if you like it or not. Don't get involved on whatever the drama is, because I had to put my journalistic cap on here.
Of course, yeah.
I had to be passive regardless, even if I agreed or even if I disagreed. I know it's going to be difficult because, you know, you bring some people on and they're like, why do you have that guy? And then these people wouldn't like it with this guy coming on. And I'd be like, look, whatever your opinion is, it's fine. But I'm going to do whatever I want because I'm a grown-ass man. And, you know, you're going to listen to it anyway. You know what I mean?
Not only that, you're the fact that you're a host and the fact that you thought of this podcast and whatnot is, one, you're not taking sides, and two, you got to be professional. And I guess that's where this whole thing came about. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview, because I heard about your past podcast and I'm like, I really like this guy because he's allowing that person to speak without giving his opinion and all that stuff. But also, you have a kick-ass voice. And I'm like, yo, like, so when I first heard it, I'm thinking guy in suit, you know, and all that shit. Meanwhile, here you are with a Slipknot jersey, and I'm like, I like this guy, and I don't mind doing more with you. But the fact that you're able to keep it professional, and the fact that you know what you want, and you know how to run it, you know, and that is where people can air it out, you know.
And I wanted to do like a retrospective of people as well. So, you know, I know Core Wiki and all those things are around. So I thought, well, if I find out things about them, you know, people who are characters kind of have a little bit of ego, so they love talking about their character.
They love talking about themselves. Yeah.
If I find out what they like, where they've been, you know, for me, it's not about what people talk about. It's can I fill in a minimum of an hour of conversation? That's almost my goal. Some go way over because they've got lots to talk about. Some people are shorter, and it's, you know, hard to straight out to an hour because they're, you know, boring. But, you know, that I do generally do research on the guests because I feel like I need something to talk about. And I kind of like to do it in those retrospectives. Like I said, the Inside the Actor Studio, I always use that as an example. I really used to like that. And some people would come on there and be like, how the hell did you know that? And I'd say, look, it is up on here, but, you know, I'm talking about the places that you've been, the people that you've met, and then the stories in between that. And that's kind of how people, I guess, enjoy it, because we are talking about them. We're not talking about me. And I also don't go, well, let me tell you about this opinion of mine. It's not about me.
Yeah.
It's
not about you. It's about the guests. Yeah.
And, you know, I've had a lot of controversies through the podcast and things like that because, you know, people don't like it when someone says their name. And, you know, I mean, I don't really tend to reply on social media if you're going to call me out. I'm just not interested.
No, you don't. You don't need to.
I'm not going to.
Vince does not reply to any tweets. You know,
I ain't Vince McMahon, but yeah. I'm not going to reply to you because I'm not going to have a social media island. I just think it's really, really childish. However, there have been people who have said, keep my name out of it. Keep my name out of it. I said, I didn't say that. He did. If you've got an issue, talk to him, not me. You know, and I get it, but there's a little bit of narcissism there where it's, well, don't talk about me. I said, if you came on, you'd want to talk about any of them, right? And I'd let you because it's your forum. So don't give me that crap about, well, he's talking about me and I'm talking about, and I think, well, you do the same thing. So suck it up and deal with it, because that's what happened. You say, talk about whatever we want. Yeah, people have got grievances. I get that. And some people could be like, you're siding with them, we're siding with them. If I had person 1 and person B, person A talks shit about person B, person B gets angry, I would happily say, you know what, person B, come on and tell me why you're pissed off. I wouldn't side, because that's not the point. I'm not like these weird, you know, right-wing news outlets. But, you know, for example, you know, Travis, that second edition, which did extremely well within a short space of time, that was the true moment I realized something. I realized, you know, with the people that are going to like you and the people that aren't going to like you, they're still going to listen, because the people who like it won't listen to the conversation. The people who don't like you are going to listen to it to shit on you. But either way, they're going to listen to it. And I saw that in the numbers, because it was way more than what my normal audience ones were. You know, that was probably the one where people were like, oh, you're supporting this guy and supporting this guy. And I think I'm still going to go into a conversation with them. I'm still going to listen to it. I'm still going to talk about it. You're not helping yourself by listening to it because you're showing to me that you want to hear it. If you didn't listen to it, I would then agree with you. Think, well, yeah, maybe you don't want to listen to it. But again, that's the highest one now ever, because everybody had the same thought process, every single one of them, and that was, I want to hear what Travis has to say.
And I felt that was actually a really good episode of.
And that was the one where everybody wanted to hear what he had to say because he hadn't said anything.
And not only that, but
I didn't even ask him.
I guess he could say that he was that CM Punk famous interview.
Well, and I didn't even ask him. He asked me.
He asked you. And that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I done with Nathaniel Carter, and he was someone he was good friends with, and he said, "Hey, maybe I should come and explain things." I said, "Cool," and I made it very clear. I said, "Look, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to question you. I'm going to ask you the questions. We're going to go through the times. We're going to explain each thing because some people want answers, and then people can decide what they want." And that's kind of what happened. And even if you want to have an argument about what he said. Why come after me?
Why come after the guy? Yeah, exactly.
What do you expect me to do? What do you think I'm going to say? Do you think I'm going to sit here and apologize? Or do you think I'm going to sit here and go, well, he did say some good things? No, because that's what you do. You ask the questions, you get the answer. You don't like the answer, there's a little red X in the top right corner of your screen. Press it and go away.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess almost to close this off, we got like 10 more minutes. Do you have a favorite episode or a favorite person you interviewed? I mean, yeah, Travis is probably the famous one, but do you personally have a like?
I actually have a lot of different ones, and even though there's people out there that aren't extremely fond of me, which they're right.
Fuck them, I don't care.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't do the whole the haters. Everyone has an opinion, they're allowed to have it, and that's that. There's many, I like obviously the Travis one. I always love when Ray comes on because we have good old chin wag, as we say. I do love the one with Eddie Mack, who recently passed. So God bless him, because he was just a jolly guy. We had a great laugh. One of the times I genuinely laughed, in a podcast. I'm not talking like just kind of kind of thing. I'm talking like genuinely laughed at this craziness.
Yeah.
As much as again, some people from certain groups probably don't like me and whatever. There was one that I had with a lady called Chloe. And she was transgender, and she was talking about all of that, and she was very, very, very open, and I appreciated that, and I thought it was a great conversation. I really think it did, because sometimes people who are transgender don't tend to want to talk about things. I get that, it's their business, but I loved how she was open about it. Now I've got to think of all the episodes I've done. I like people who I have a preconceived notion of, and then they come on and completely blow it. Someone said to me, "Hey man, that guy's this, that guy's this, this guy this." So I'm going in like, okay, well I'll make my own decision. And then I'll finish the podcast and think about that and think, what the hell were they talking about? It was great.
Yeah.
Those guys I've had like Cash and Sean O'Connor and Nate and Con and even Ray a little bit way back. And just different people, and that goes to show you again with anything. Some people can have relationships with others. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the same relationship with them. You have to base it upon you. They may not like them, but that's something that they've got to deal with. It might have been them, not him or her. So think of it as, well, what do they do to me? So from that point. I'm trying to think who else we did. The Forever Movement one was quite interesting, especially trying to break down like how they did the whole paywall thing with their Unite stuff, and how they have all these different people that record for them and do all the attire stuff and things like that.
Yeah.
I like the one we did because we started to branch out and do things that aren't just wrestling. Like a lot of the video game guys, like we have Game Bro Corion and Canadian Guy. And guys like that. I am probably missing a lot, but again, I can't think of every single one that's on there. As much as I'm on this podcast, and you're probably going to think I'm going to kiss your ass. You surprised me because, and again, I'm just being honest, like I always am. I was told a lot of bad things about you.
Oh, of course. I'm pretty sure if I said a lot of bad things about you.
And in your mind, you're like, well, do I, don't I? But there was a thing, at least a year ago where I clicked in, we're doing a podcast, we're not doing a popularity contest.
Yeah.
And then when I talked to you, and I knew you know, our relationship isn't going to be what everyone else is, because that's just not human.
Mm-hmm.
But just the ridiculous amount of talents that you had, not just the video editing, but the dance thing you did, and the animal stuff you worked with, and all these things, like, man, and also being in the wrestling company and the photography as well as that, it was like, that's very, very impressive. And I like people that we can talk to that don't just have the, you know, I like CAW and I went to this show and, you know, that's 10 minutes. I like people who have different personalities and interests and all these things. So you had a lot to you. And like I say, the point of the podcast is, how can we fill up this hour and a half, whatever.
Yeah, we did like an hour and a half.
We did like 2 hours.
Talking about wrestling just in general was like an hour. And I love that, because you're a guy from a different country. And I'm like, I always want to learn or talk to people from different points of view, because my mentality from dance to gaming culture and all that stuff reflects on how I personally mentality run my show, and the mentality that I have and everything like that. You know, everything. How can I take this and do it on this now? You know, that's
why I like this kind of. I don't take this stuff seriously. I don't do it all the time. If anything, I'm doing it less and less now as life goes on, because I've just got so much things.
Life happens. Yeah,
I think I post a show like once a fucking year now. There's certain people I keep in contact with because they're good people. And because I'm not that much into it, I like to do podcasts where we talk about the person, because that's generally what I'm more interested in. And I think that's more of an important conversation. So that's why, again, I mentioned that about you, because, you know, there's character to that person. They've got many different things. I as much as it started off as a core podcast, I do not want to be talking about core for an hour.
Oh, nobody wants to talk about
because I've heard it all before. And again, there's almost so much you can do. So it's like, well, let's talk about wrestling. You like sports? What do you like this? What do you like that? Just general, maybe things that people don't even know about you, which might seem small to you, but it could be, I used to do this, or something happened in my family, or something to do with history, or anything like that. It's just, it makes it enjoyable, because we you know, it doesn't end up being a core podcast anymore. It's just a general podcast now.
That's right. That's actually a good way to end it off.
Yes.
So,
but you know, that had a segue right at the end.
Put your plugins, man. Where can people catch you?
You can see me on the Twitter machine at FWZ Collection, COLLECTION. On the Twitter page is where I tend to post the podcast. So I don't really post anything else. We do have a Facebook page where I do the same thing. And I put more in detail about what is in the podcast. The Twitter one is obviously smaller because of the characters. Mm-hmm. The YouTube account is, of course, youtube.com/FWZ Collection. So pretty much I've got everything from now way back in the day. I don't think I've ever deleted a video, to be honest with you, in regards to it. So you can, if you want to see how terrible I was and laugh at me, then you can go way back. I am on Discord if you want to bully me on there, which is hashtag the Jamco 5657 or 5756. It's one of those two on there. And of course, the Jamco Talks podcast, which is pretty much available on all kind of streaming services now. So we're on Spotify, we're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Boxbreaker, flipping. We're actually now on Amazon. We're on Amazon podcast now, part of the Audible service. Well, it was a swine to get in, but we did it. I say we, it's me. Why am I saying we? And just general random small podcast companies I can't remember, but that's that. You'll always have a podcast every week or every other week. You won't get a show every week. You'll get a show once a year. So check out probably the podcast more than the actual show itself. And to be honest with you, which is a great thing to go on. I'm not a person who is in the groups and the communities and all that kind of stuff. I kind of keep to myself and do my own thing.
That's the best way to do it, man. That's the best way to do it.
If you are someone that generally wants to have a chat or maybe wants to talk about your show or your character or anything else like that, contact me. I've never said no to anyone on the podcast. Actually, I think one, but he was a dickhead. But if you are thinking, well, I'm waiting for the DM or I'm waiting for the call, contact me. We'll set it up. I, again, don't care who you are. Even if you think you which I do get a lot from people. You don't have a history, or you're not that interesting. I don't care if one person knows you or you're the biggest guy. All that shit doesn't matter to me. I think it's stupid. Let's have a conversation. We'll talk about your stuff and anything else you want. But that's what the podcast is. So I am open to anyone. Invitation is always open to the podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
And I also don't wear a suit either. He's lying. I never wear a suit.
He rocks Slipknot jerseys. That's kick ass. But yeah, thanks, Jamco. Thanks for being on the Best FM podcast. This is probably one of the best podcast ever. The second. Yeah, man. Anyways, later, ladies and gentlemen, my boy Jamco is out, and I'm Full Rise, and we are out. Later. Peace.
Hey, this is the National Treasure and the World's Champion, Nick Aldis, and you're watching the Xtreme Virtual Pro Wrestling.
Extreme.